Hey, it's Danny. I got a great question the other day that I want to record a video to answer for all of you, not just for the person who asked the question. And the question was, how do I fairly price my offers, right? How do I figure out what the fair price is? And that's such a great question because the word fair is a little bit deceptive in terms of everything that goes into it. Fair doesn't mean fair in terms of, in a perfect world, everyone would be able to access this for free because you can't play by different rules than everyone else in the world unless you're just massively independently wealthy, right? You've got to deliver great value to others, make their lives better, and you have to be compensated in a way that is, fair puts a lot of value judgments into it, but let's call it sustainable. That's sustainable for you to keep delivering this sort of value to other people. So here's how you think about figuring this out. First, you want to ask yourself, what are the boundaries, the top and the bottom of what you could charge. So the top is the most the market will bear. So ask yourself, for the sort of offer that I'm making, what is the most that anyone out there, right? Big celebrities, famous gurus, whatever. What is the most that someone could charge for something like this? Not to say you have to charge that amount, but what's the most that you could? So you have a sense of the most the market will bear. And then the bottom, the floor, is what is the least that I can charge, and it's still worth my while to do this. And for this, you need to figure out the costs of everything that goes into delivering this offer, right? There are the hard costs, materials, etc. There's your opportunity cost. There's your time, which entrepreneurs tend to discount the value of, right? So if you think about all the things that you were to do personally, what would you have to pay someone else to deliver those parts? And give you a rough sense of the cost. It needs to be at least a little bit more than all that, so you have a bit of a margin. It's worth doing. But then you've got a range. There's usually going to be a big difference between the least that you can charge and still kind of have it be sustainable and workable, and the most the market will bear. And then the question becomes, where do you charge in that range? And what I often see is a lot of entrepreneurs kind of reverting to the bottom of that range because they're like, well, I want it to be accessible and I'm uncomfortable charging and all this kind of stuff. And what you're essentially doing there is you're playing a game that you probably can't win, because being towards the bottom of that range is something you can do when you have big economies of scale and you're very efficient at delivering this sort of transformation. But just like a little corner mom and pop shop can't compete on prices with big box retailers, right? You're not able to do that. When you're relatively early in building your business, you're not going to be able to be competitive with the big players out there who have big offer ladders and they're buying, ads and exposure at scale and all that kind of stuff. What you want to do is ask yourself, what would I have to deliver to feel really good about charging closer to the top of the range? It doesn't have to be all the way at the top, but near the top. And then use that extra margin to allow you to get better at what you're doing, to add even more value, to get more efficient, so that maybe the prices drop over time. And this is how new offers are introduced to markets in just about every market. This is how it works. So the example that I like to share, because it just helps people understand it, is with Tesla. And I know Tesla has become a bit of a controversial company since Elon Musk just, kind of lost his mind. But it still illustrates the point. Say whatever else you want about him. The guy's a sharp business person. Well, that's a B. So hopefully I don't get stung making this video. But if you think about the early days of Tesla, they offered the Roadster. It was a very expensive sports car. And this was a smart choice because who are you going to sell to first? The people who've got the money, they can afford it. And then you've got all these margins, and that gives you the resources to then figure out how to offer a more accessible car. They went to the Model S, which was still very expensive, but not as expensive. And they sold a whole bunch of that, and that gave them a bunch of money, and they used that to develop the Model 3, et cetera, and they're working down. If you think about Apple, back in the day, there was one iPhone that was very expensive. Now they've got a whole line of them, and some are more accessible. But you start with the more expensive one, and that's what provides the resources to pay for the research and development for what's going to come later. So figure out the range, right? What's the most the market will bear? What is the least you can charge without essentially losing money, implicitly or explicitly? And then ask yourself, what would I have to do to deliver really good value to justify being closer to the top of that range? That's how I recommend you think about your pricing and figuring out what a fair and that means sustainable price is at which to price your services and offers. So anyway, I hope it's helpful. If you have more questions, send them over to me and my team, and maybe I'll make a video answering yours as well.